Today again we have a power packed day. I got a little feedback कि things are a little कभी कभी लगता है बहुत ज़्यादा packed है, but then we try to cover as much as possible. So today again we have a power packed day, good panel sessions, very learned speakers, the best in this field. So we'll start off with uh, something a very little unique topic, structuring stressed asset acquisition. It's a part of restructuring. And again, then for that, again, this excludes CIRP and IBC proceedings. So it's going to be a very interesting session, and we have CA Vishal Joishar, who is a very learned person in this field. He specializes in this field. So I am sure this will be again a very interesting session. It's an interesting topic, and we have a great speaker on this. I hope all of you take the maximum benefit out of this. So I'll not waste too much time. I'll request our coordinator, Aniket Kulkarni, to formally introduce Vishal Bhai. Thank you.
Welcome everybody to the second day of the topic of M&A. So welcome everybody on behalf of all the dignitaries and WIRC. Today first speaker is CS Vishal Joishar. He is a founder of Value Capital Solutions, and he has over 24 years experience in debt solution and capital markets, focusing on debt raise, refinancing, resolution under RBI IBC. He's also he's also worked earlier at the ENY, Axis Bank, DSP Merrill Lynch, and a boutique debt investment banking firm. Now I would request CA Sanjay Nikam, council member, to welcome CA Vishal Joishar with a memento.
Good morning, everyone. So it is either the CPE points that brings you here, or maybe this topic. I hope it is the topic, because I generally miss out on the CPE points every time I have to attend, and it's unfortunate on my side. So okay, we are going to cover a beautiful subject, and that has been what India has been going through since last 7 years. And fortunately, I've been in the journey of this. We have seen companies which were, mammoth in themselves fallen, and we have seen how they have thereafter survived. And it is only with the active interaction of the regulators, Reserve Bank, SEBI, that we were able to save the franchisees. So what I personally believe is that there is an asset on ground, okay? The justice has to happen to the asset, the people who are attached to that asset, the employment, the families attached to those assets. You change the promoter, it's okay. The asset has to survive. The asset was built with a national capital, the capital which was infused to make that asset, and now if that company becomes NPA, goes into liquidation, is only going to deplete the value of that asset. So can we do something to revive that? Can we do something to protect that? Can we then do something to then enhance? And you have seen stories, and I think all of you are well learned, and you would have all experienced that how turnarounds have proved very beneficial to all the stakeholders, to bankers, to equity holders, to suppliers. People have realized their lost money, people have realized their lost capital, people have realized their dues. Yes, at times with haircut, at times you would have seen some hard challenges, but if at a right time, right action has been taken, there is a possibility that a resolution can work out for that asset. What we are going to do today is, we are going to see that how resolutions work outside IBC. IBC came in 2016, and it came in as a boon, I would say. It came in at a right time. There's always a right time to whatever happens, and I believe it came at a right time. One good part what Government of India did at that point of time, it directed the top 12 largest account in the country under IBC as a mandatory IBC. Why I'm talking about IBC is because rest of the period I'm not going to talk of that. And because of that, that gave the direction to the smaller accounts also. And if those large accounts could be handled, why not others? Outside IBC, what has happened? So what we are now going to see is that what has regulator done? How have banks coped up? How have restructuring worked? Which were the guidelines under which this restructuring resolutions happened? And what has been the journey of that? That's how largely we are going to cover. The Indian banking as it was in 2014-15, the kind of total NPA we have seen, the kind of exposures that we have seen which went bad, and how slowly, gradually, and subtly this has come back to a normal level, I could say so. How RBI, time to time, and you will see that there was a period what RBI was as proactive as any private entity, and I would demonstrate that. This is a journey of our NPAs. Okay, if you see in 2014, we were well within 3.8 lakh percent, 3.8 percentage in terms of our gross NPA. At that point of time, the number was 2.6 lakh crores. It peaked somewhere to 10.4 lakh crore as a gross NPA. This was almost 11% of our total banking advances. And you can imagine that this was the time where bankers really started worrying that this can really have a spiraling effect. It did had, but it was well contained. And how it got contained is only the journey thereafter, and how slowly, gradually it has brought down. And today it is sub 3, less than 3% of our total advances is in GNPA. However, the banking size has increased. So what my GNPA as a percentage, which was 3.8% at that point of time, was only when my overall advances was 60 lakh crore. Today it is 161 lakh crore. So 161 lakh crore pe agar if I do 3%, it is still a size. It's still something needs to be resolved. So the size was also increased. So while the percentage shows a reduced percentage trend, but our advances have increased. And because of that, this percentage seems down. But lot of the accounts have been resolved. Lot of the resolutions have already happened. The journey here largely was attributed to the corporate debt which went into challenges. If you all, I'm sure you would be tracking that now it is the private and the personal debt which is now getting into challenges. And if things don't get controlled, we may see another spike coming in the next 1 to 2 years where these numbers will start increasing. NBFCs will start seeing that pain, and that's the worry. What happens has a reason, okay? Resolutions were not happening in 2012-13. We had a forum called CDR. I'm sure many of you would have heard companies referred into CDR, which was Corporate Debt Restructuring Forum created by RBI. All banks used to come together and the debt of that company would be taken up in a CDR forum and resolved, restructured. Many of the companies went into CDR, many few of them came out, and some of them have really flourished. This I'm talking of 2012 times, before 2012. Somewhere around 2015, RBI realized that there is a pain. And what that pain is evergreening. The way the China debt was ballooning, and what we call as ballooning of debt, evergreening of debt, something similar was happening in India. We were seeing the debt parking from bank, NBFCs giving debt. That debt is gone to clear the banking debt. Bank will come and refinance. So there was a lot of those kind of transactions happening. Ultimately, the asset is only earning what it can earn, but the debt is ballooning. and that needed to be addressed. During this period, if the account is NPA, so if you see the accounts were NPA, okay, but what triggers a action from a lender are, I personally believe, are three factors. One, the security that he has, the provisioning in the books that he has made, and third, the potential loss that he will have to take on that account. So if the provisioning is only 25% of the total exposure, if he's got a security, including security promoter has given, including outside the company, 3 times of the debt, the banker is really not going to bother. Correct? But if there is no outside collateral, if the collateral value has also depleted, if the company's asset has also gone down over a period of time, value has not been created out of that asset, and if this asset has stayed in the bank book for say 4 years, every year there is a provisioning which keeps on hitting. At the time of 4th and 5th year, he would be somewhere around 60% of the debt provided for. Thereafter, he will reach to 75%, 80%. If you see in FY22, most of the banks, and I'm here, this is banking as per the category of bank, a private bank, a public sector bank, and a foreign bank. They have all reached a category where 80% of their debt, almost 70 to 80% of debt was already provided for. And that is the time when they started doing cash sales. Sell the loan, whatever is outstanding, sell it at cash. Pay me 30% cash, full settlement. And as we see the progress of how the journey has, we will come into. Okay? And how new players have come into play after the cash sales has come in. This is the journey of the RBI's intervention to address the challenges. So we had CDR forum prior to 2012. It continued in 2012-13. In 2014, RBI introduced a JLF mechanism. That was the first time a mechanism was introduced where lenders outside of CDR are forming a consortium. We always have a consortium, but this was termed as a joint lender forum for resolving debt. And that was first time where resolution outside CDR mechanisms were brought in. I remember I was working on a case called Binani Cement at that point of time, and that was account which got restructured under the JLF mechanism. Okay, it was restructured at that point of time. There were many such cases which got restructured under the JLF mechanism. The JLF mechanism clearly provided the guidance by which the banks can restructure a debt similar to what a CDR used to do, that promoter will have to bring in promoter contribution. That will get elongated depending upon the terms what the promoter or the company has been asking. This is based on an independent TV. This is based on an independent assessment of the business, and obviously the valuation of the asset, valuation of the stock, all independent exercises are brought in. First time during this JLF mechanism came into the concept of doing a forensic audit. And that is how forensic audit started coming into picture. CDR did not mandate any kind of forensic audit. This was the first time RBI introduced, if you have to restructure, if banks are convinced, they should restructure. If banks feel that there is any kind of iota of doubt, they should initiate investigative audit, forensic audit, to ensure that there is no siphoning, there is no money leakage which has happened in or has happened in the system. Many companies got restructured, many companies got stuck, they were not able to go under JLF mechanism. Followed by that, 2015, Raghuram Rajan introduced a concept called as AQR, which was basically the asset quality testing. That was first time introduced by RBI. What you all know today as SMA 0, SMA 1, SMA 2 was that AQR. So address the problem when the problem starts. Otherwise, we are directly seeing a standard account suddenly become NPA. So what's the point? And first time they started mandated banks, please report which all categories of your debt is standard, which category of debt is sitting under a SMA 0 category, SMA 1 category. So basically a DPD of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, so that we know that what is coming our way. bankers initially had lot of resistance, lot of pain points, because this is something suddenly come out of blue. And now my actual numbers are coming. And if you see that those numbers have then started, you see 4.3 to 7.5, this was the reason of AQR. First time AQR introduced in 14, 15, 15, 16, you see the jump happening now. Because now the actual NPA numbers are coming. Before that, it was all evergreening. I have not covered the NPAs which is parked with the NBFC yet. It is another 1.5 lakh crore at that point of time. And that would be around 1 lakh crore even today. When AQR was introduced, so now I have created a problem, if you say so, correct? That banks are now suddenly having higher number of NPA. Now what to do? So on other hand, I then equip ARCs to start aggregating this NPA debt. I need to take this banking debt problem outside of the bank. I had ARCs in place at that point of time, but ARCs in India prior to 2015-16 were only a vehicle where the ARCs were introducing only 5% of capital, 95% was SR issue. So there was no skin in the game. So first time ARCs came with, RBI came with that, okay, if ARC wants to acquire 15%, they will have to contribute. 85% is maximum SR that they can issue. Now with that changed the dynamics of ARC. With that came a ARC called as Edelweiss, ARC called Phoenix ARC, Kotak. They all jumped in. They pumped in capital, they acquired assets, and they started actually working on resolution of those assets. Because now they have contributed 15%. The erstwhile ARCs, Acre, Arcil, which were largely under 595, immediately pumped in more capital. They also started aggregating. We saw almost 20 ARCs licenses issued over a period of time thereafter. So today we have almost around 26 plus ARCs, and they are all been mandated by RBI to have that net worth to almost around 300 crore today. And RBI has been giving them more and more power to resolve with the issue of this NPAs. But significant quantum of NPA debt has gone and sit in ARC, that is another 1.5 lakh crore, if I have to say so, right? So after ARCs came RBI's action that whatever debt moved out of banking debt to ARC, now what to do with the debt. So first time a restructuring scheme called as the Strategic Debt Restructuring Scheme was introduced. Company like Gammon India, Patel Engineering went into Strategic Debt Restructuring Scheme. What did the scheme provide for? That you will convert some portion of debt into equity. First time the concept of sustainable debt and sustainable debt was introduced. So with this, the bankers are now realizing that how much actual debt can be paid from cash flows, how much debt will have to be deferred over a period of time, monetization of asset, how much I need to basically take a haircut, how much I need to take elongate the debt. So that was the first action taken by RBI by basically empowering the banks to do a resolution independent, and there is no IBC forum at that point of time. There is no CDR forum by then, and they have de facto declassified CDR forum in 2015-16. SDR came in. Immediately year thereafter, we saw a scheme called S4A. So if you see, in 2016, they came with a sustainable debt stress asset restructuring scheme. This was the time when RBI realized that companies turning around are creating equity value. So bankers who have been sitting on debt, taken provision of 40%, taken haircut, and now when they restructure, the company's market cap is increasing. And bankers have just taken away the haircut, and the promoters, erstwhile promoters, new promoters are going to get a merry out of it. So first time RBI enabled banks that you can take equity also. So under SDR and S4A, both the lenders started taking equity. When this equity comes in, they own say 20%, 25%, and there was also a formula under which that S4A will work. That if you are having a 25% equity, it should be commensurate to the potential haircut that you are taking. To that extent, equity you have to provide to the bankers. Jet Airways was a classic case which was at that point of time being contemplated. Only thing is, then the dilemma came that equity be issued at what price? At a SEBI determined formula or at 1 rupee? So I was fortunate to work on SGR case. I was fortunate to work on S4A case. The first S4A case I was involved in, we were able to get it at a SEBI formula. The second case which thereafter happened at 1 rupee. Now at 1 rupee, you imagine that it almost around 1100 crore of debt, I'm converting at just 1 rupee. So somewhere the value gets eroded for the other stakeholders. If was it a SEBI determined formula, it could have been fair to all the stakeholders. But yes, in some cases it happened. Thereafter, companies started going to the courts and asking the dilemma or this whole process of issuing at 1 rupee. And we have cases, litigations were initiated at that point of time. Now, both of them are right. SEBI determines that preferential allotment has to be as per the SEBI formula. What you are doing is preferential allotment, conversion of debt to equity. So ideally, SEBI formula has to be in place. RBI mandates that your debt, whatever loss you are taking, you are basically getting commensurated. So it has to be at a 1 rupee. So it got stuck in between. And these are the challenges which STA and S4A both faced. Then came the major turnaround happened when 2016 IBC came in. IBC was introduced as a platform. This was suddenly a regulated forum under the Honorable NCLT Court and CLAT. You are getting a resolution window available to resolve all these debt cases. During that period, 2018, we saw 12th Feb circular. So 2016, IBC came. 2018, S4A, as I said, there were challenges which were coming in actual implementation. We actually used to track that how many cases got under S4A, how many cases have got under SGR. And unfortunately, at one point in time, after the first 5-7 cases, the cases would get stuck. Then circular suddenly becomes redundant. RBI is closely monitoring, if you see, from 2015 onwards. And they are trying to do what best they can by introducing new circular, making changes. In between, sorry, I missed that STR with change in management. You change the management and you can effect a resolution. And this was in 2016 again, whereby more than 26%, if a new shareholder comes in and if becomes the highest single largest shareholder, change in management is effected. And with that, the entire banking debt becomes standard on day one. That was introduced. But despite this, challenges were on each of the circular, and they were not been able to implement it in all cases, I could say so. So again, new circular comes in 2018. RBI was seeing that cases were getting dragged in terms of, okay, we have initiated SDR, we have initiated S4A, 1.5 year not implemented. So comes 2018 12th Feb circular, which says that if a bank wants to undertake a restructuring exercise, it takes the restructuring exercise, it has to implement within 6 months. If not implemented, then there is a mandatory reference to IBC. 12th Feb circular, some cases work started, but if imagine where we have consortium banks of 15 banks, consortium of 26 banks, consortium of 40 banks, restructuring within that period of 6 months was not easy, correct? Even if there's a consortium of 5 banks, the process would take its time, where they would want to do forensic, they would want to do valuation, they would want to do all that processes which tick boxes for them to ensure that it's a proper restructuring. 6 months was too small a time. But the fundamental issue, and this 12th Feb circular was withdrawn by RBI because the mandatory provision was against the spirit of the constitution, which was then taken to court, and the Supreme Court upheld that 12th Feb mandatory reference is against the constitutional right of a corporate, that it cannot be mandatorily referred to NCLT or IBC. 12th Feb circular was then replaced hence by a circular which came on 7th June 2019. And when this circular came, by then CDR forum was dissolved. And this circular came and said that, listen, what we are doing is we are going to trash away all erstwhile circular. So no S4A, no SGR, no change in management. This is the master circular. This is the framework for resolving the restructured cases or restructured distressed assets in your books. So this becomes now the mother document for any restructuring. And time and again, RBI has been revising it, reviewing it, adding features to that. But this is the single circular under which your restructuring happened. What it did was, all erstwhile effects of restructuring were clubbed into one. So if I as a banker feels that I don't want to work with this promoter, he has siphoned money. Under this circular, I will do the restructuring with change in management. If I am confident of the promoter and I feel that I can have some equity value created out of it, I have a right to convert that to equity. If I want to do a vanilla restructuring, I will do vanilla restructuring. The liberty to choose the option of restructuring, the manner of restructuring, the type of restructuring was left between the two parties. RBI said, you both decide. I am not coming and saying that minimum of value of your haircut. I am not coming and saying minimum 26%. I am not coming and laying out any condition whatsoever. You both are the best judge, and this goes with the spirit under IBC where COC is informed and the lenders are aware that what they have to do, and they are the best judge to decide on a specific case. Same formula was used in this circular, that it is between the two parties that they have to determine that what is the restructuring best suitable for that specific case. That's where we are thereafter. Now, you see the graph was going down. Provisioning, however, was increasing because every year my provisioning keeps on increasing. First year 15%, second year it goes to 25, then goes to 40, stays to 40 for 3 years, and then goes to 60, and then 75 and 100. Now, during this period, assuming that a bank account became NPA in 2013, unable to resolve in any of the circular, banks have provided for have provided almost 70 crores, 70%. Where there is low security, they would have provided 100% also. That is the time came when 2022, we saw that cash assets, cash settlement transactions happened. That was the time when transfer of loan came in. That was the time when ARCs started doing cash settlement. What is a cash settlement? I basically take out the bank. I take out the entire exposure of the bank and do a one-time settlement. Bankers have already provided for. They will see what security they have. They will see what assets they have, and then they will decide whether settlement is going to give them a better realization, or if they sit and they asset on a restructuring, they will get a better asset. They are the best to judge. But then this mandated transfer of the loans. Transfer of loans was always permitted under the RBI format, even under the normal prudential norms. One bank can sell loan, but under the transfer of loan exposure, first time RBI introduced something as a transfer of good loan and also transfer of bad loan. Earlier, transfer of bad loan was permitted only to a ARC company. But first time they have said that if an asset is stressed, you can still transfer. And you can transfer to NBFC, you can transfer to other debt also, other lender also. So by that, RBI is basically again giving them the leeway to decide the way they want to restructure, they want to get out of the NPA or the stress asset issue. 24, again RBI has revised the restructuring framework format. So as we see, it is one circular, which circular is the 7 June circular as we call, which basically mandates the banks, lenders to resolve. Fortunately, today, the number of cases and the resolutions have only reduced thereafter because lot of cases got restructured, either through S4A or SDR, 7 June, then IBC. So the number of cases have stopped reducing. Lot of the assets were acquired by ARC after 1585 structure. Lot of assets were acquired through 100% cash settlement. Likes of ARCs, they have gone and done settlement of 1200 crore, 1500 crore, aggregated the entire banking debt, sit as a single largest lender and then determine the whole restructuring plan. Lot of those stuff has happened. What we are now going to see is under each of this format, how it actually worked. When 7 June circular came in, it came with a mandate that depending upon the outstanding debt, we are going to press upon the lenders. So cases which were more than 2,000 crore at that point of time were mandatorily asked to be restructured under 7 June circular. Immediate effect. Cases which were 1,500 crore, so anywhere between 1,500 crore and 2,000, they said, okay, we are giving you some time. So from June to January 1, 2020, you will have the time to do your restructuring under the earlier circular, whatever you want to do. But after January 2020, all your restructuring also will fall under the 7 June circular. And for cases less than 1,500, they mandated that, okay, we will come and indicate that by when it will become effective. But by de facto, banks went and have done restructuring only under 7 June. Thereafter, RBI did not come out with any reference date for those debt which were below 1,500. What did it say basically? That once the bankers identify the account has a stress and I go to AQR, so it gives a reference to AQR, that bankers are the best judge to determine when there is a problem. You get 1 day NP DPD, you understand there's a operational issue. You get second month DPD, same problem, you understand there would be some challenges. Third month, fourth month, if it's a perennial problem and the account is slipping from SMA, SMA1, SMA2, then there is a challenge. RBI empowered the lenders that even if it is not an NPA, you can invoke under the 7 June circular and start your restructuring. That is called the reference date by the lead bank and the consortium, where your reference date is first time indicating that yes, this account from now on will be restructured under 7 June circular. The timeline continued to be 180 days. Within 180 days, you have to restructure. But now it is not a mandatory reference to IBC. If you are not able to resolve within 180 days, there will be an additional provisioning to the bankers. So when you are referring an account under the 7 June circular, whatever your provision in the books has, you have to do a incremental 20% provisioning in the books of the bank you are referring it to. After 180 days, if you have not been able to resolve that, you will have to do additional 15% provision. That is what RBI mandated to the bank. This was in lieu of bankers coming in a more synced manner and expediting the process. For a banker, additional provisioning hits his quarterly numbers. So it was to that getting additional provisioning, bankers would want to do an implementation. And that's how this whole format, if you see, implementation is 30 days of review period, first referred 30 days and 180 days thereafter. So I first refer on 1st January 2020. Within 30 days, bankers will collectively hold a meeting of Joint Lender Forum, JLF mechanism. Decide what is to be done. Within 30 days, company will be put up a plan that I want to do a restructuring, I want to do a cash settlement, I will get an ARC, I will do a change in management, I will give you 25% equity. Whatever is the plan, within 30 days decide. If bankers within 30 days come during that period on one node and decide, okay, this is what we will do, starts your period of implementing, and that 180 days starts thereafter. Now in 210 days, you decide you have to complete. If you do not, then you will have an extra provisioning. In 2016, IBC is already in place now. Okay, so lender in his own justice, in own wisdom, has a right to go into IBC any moment. Correct? How do I address that? On one hand, I have say 15 consortium members, and each of the consortium member is going and filing separately IBC, so that will not serve purpose here. So there is a requirement that all lenders of a company under 7 June will come on a common platform called as intercreditor agreement. During this period, they will authorize the lead bank to undertake the whole process as stipulated by RBI. During this period, they will all agree that we are not going to go and refer this case into IBC for the next 210 days or 180 days, depending upon when they are signing. And during this period, we will adhere to the spirit of the 7th June and try and restructure, resolve. And there are various roles, responsibilities given up to the lead bank, all responsibility casted on the member banks. They form a core committee where suppose there's a 26-member consortium. We have dealt with 40 bank consortium. And you can imagine it happens in this kind of event that we have to handle. But then you cannot do a restructuring every time with every set of lenders. So we form a core committee. So the JLF basically, this whole agreement provides, ICA provides that a core committee comprising of 5 banks they will decide what is best for all the set of lenders. Then they will propose to the main consortium and consortium will go ahead with. After the lead bank is convinced with all the processes duly followed, as I said, forensic, valuation, restructuring plan, independent TEV, then they will decide that, okay, this is the plan that what we are going with. They will sit with the promoter, okay, what are you bringing on table? Is there anything to be brought on table? Are you bringing in new capital? Is there an equity partner coming in? Are we trying to get some new infusion in whatever form and manner? With that, a overall restructuring plan is put into place. The bankers will then go to respective committees, take the approval and then implement. Upon implementation, what happens? Upon implementation, it will then determine that one year thereafter, if the company has paid back either in the first year or whenever 10% of the outstanding total debt, and when I say outstanding total debt, there can be a question mark, fund-based or non-fund-based. And there have been different interpretations depending upon the bank exposures. And I'll touch upon that. Then this account will become standard again 1 year after you pay 10%. So 1st January 2020, I referred an account. 1st of September, 30th of September, we were able to do the restructuring. From 30th September to 2020 to 30th September 2021 is my review period. Under this review period, if I am able to give 10% back, or such time that I am giving 10% back, this account will continue to have the same provisioning which has been implemented or has been enforced earlier. Only after the review period where 10% has been paid, the review period gets over, will this account be reclassified as a restructured standard. And then the provisioning automatically will start graduating downwards. When this account is restructured, it is between the two parties. They have agreed that these are the numbers which looks good. How do a regulator agree on that? So regulator has stipulated that you should get a restructuring rating for that. So something called as the RP4 basically is the rating stipulated that any company going with any resolution plan should get a RP4 minimum. So it is RP1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Anything above 4 is not a restructured case permissible under this circular. So you to have minimum RP1, 2, 3 or maximum RP4. So hence in the industry norm it is RP4 which we call as. And if you have RP4 rating, credit rating has basically seen your numbers, seen the kind of resolution plan that you are doing with, and then it will implement this resolution plan. Okay. If your case is more than 100 crore, you require 2 rating agencies to come and rate the plan. If your rating is less than 100 crore, you require 1 rating agency to come and give you RP4 rating. Any question in between we can touch upon now, we can touch upon later. Please be open to that. It is, so from banking parlance, it is referred as 7 June circular. In 2024, they came out with a revised restructuring framework 2024, but it is the 7 June circular only which has been come as a master circular. Yes, yes. There's the same circular. So this is how the resolution happened to this 7th June or the RP resolution plan stipulated herein. As I said of the timeline, that within first 30 days you decide what has to be done. What if you are not able to come up to any agreement with the promoters or with the company or with the management, and you are not able to decide within the first 30 days? You have a choice to then go and refer to IBC, but it's a choice, not mandate. Second, you can still work with the promoter and try and see what collectively can be done. And during that process, out of 15 bankers, one will go and file a suit in DRT, one will go and invoke personal guarantee, one will file an application with IBC, lead bank will try and resolve the situation, see if anything else can be worked out. Promoter will go and try and find out some critical capital, some priority money coming in. All this happens. And suddenly one fine day after 3 months, there is some agreement between some key lenders. We again come together, again come in this room and say, okay, we have a plan. Provisioning is going to get impacted, but at least we have a plan now. So again, they will sign a ICA. Those lenders who have gone to IBC in that will come and say, okay, I will withdraw my review application and I will not proceed with that because I am convinced with the plan. Those who have filed to DRT will take a stay. They will agree we will not proceed because now we are signatory to IC, and then the whole process starts. Upon implementation, as I said, after review period, the account will then become standard. If you are not able to implement, you will have incremental provisioning which keeps on adding to it. RBI, through its prudential norms and master circular, historically had always provided for transfer of loans. It was always provided. One bank, and I was with the bank earlier, 31st March, our bank requires priority funding exposure to increase because that is what is stipulated. So at that point in time, we will go to some other bank, buy out those priority loan pool. We will go and buy some home loan pool. We will go and buy a agri pool. Similarly, someone has given more, will try and sell that, and they will have their own markup and profitability all involved. Rate difference would come in play. So there was always a provision for that. But under this circular, and there was also the manner in which it can be done. But this circular was brought in of transfer of loan exposure largely to cater not only to the standard asset but also to your stressed assets, not necessarily NPA. So if you see, it's a comprehensive covering all the banks, all the category of lenders are covered. A scheduled commercial bank, an RRB, and a public sector bank, and a private sector bank, urban cooperative, every bank is covered. NBFC, SIDB, everything is covered that you can transfer. Now, what was more important? How do you transfer test cases? Okay, before that, what are the conditions? In past, I am more smart banker. So what I do is, I will transfer 1,000 crore loan portfolio of agri to you. You transfer 1,000 crore, not agri, but say any other category, priority sector lending to me. Okay? 30th March, we will reverse. 30th of April, we will reverse. Because we have stipulated that balance sheet condition. 30th of March 2020, I transfer 1,000 crore. I am, say, A bank. I transfer to B bank 1,000 crore of farmer loan. And that bank who requires another sector of priority lending, say farm equipment lending, okay, all sub-housing category lending, I will sell him, I will buy from him that housing loan portfolio. Understanding between the two of us is very clear that after 30 days, we will reverse this. So that when the RBI auditor comes, he will see, okay, you have complied with, you have met the RBI stipulation. So it's okay. So under this circular, they came out with concept of minimum holding period. That if you are transferring this loan, one, it should be irrevocable. It cannot be transferred back. All the beneficial interest goes to the transferee. So those were the stipulations which were stipulated for good loan account. So if you are holding, which loan can you transfer? If it is less than 100 crore, you should have held that loan for at least 3 months. If you are transferring a 100 crore more account, it has to be minimum 6 months that you are holding the pool. Idea was that it is not some hanky-panky with the bankers amongst themselves doing the balance sheet adjustment. But the objective was simple, that if you are doing a transfer, it has to be arm's length, it has to be irrevocable. When you do this transfer, you have to follow a process. Okay? So I have 1,000 crore of priority debt which I want to sell. I will put up as a process to sell that, and say bank B comes and says, okay, 1,000 crore, 9% loan, I am willing to buy at 8.8. I will have to run a Swiss challenge auction to that. It cannot be just bilateral. I will have to test the market and do a market testing, that is there any other player who is willing to give me a better rate, and just not doing bilaterally within the banks. So those kind of stipulations were given under this circular. Whether good loan can be transferred to an ARC, first time RBI stipulated that if you have a DPD, which is a loan in default of more than 60 days, you can transfer. It is not an NPA. But a bucket of 60 to 90 day can now be transferred to an asset reconstruction company. Again, a step which is precursor to an actual NPA and the sale of asset to the ARCs. This was first time introduced. It is from banking parlance not an NPA, so a good debt. But yes, it is under SMA 2, so kindly you can now transfer. Certain other conditions were stipulated. I think this presentation is too verbose for me to read and for you to again understand. But the fundamental issue is that if I have sold a loan, it has to happen at arm's length. I cannot have any kind of beneficial interest. It has to be done with a due process followed. I cannot take exposure in this company again for next 12 months. I will not hold any security, direct, indirect, any kind of string attached, any kind of interest variation. I cannot have a clause that, okay, if the interest rate falls below, you will pay me more. No, it has to be one-time arm's length transaction. What if it is a distressed loan? If it is a distressed loan, ARCs were always there. So now this also mandates that is a process that you have to follow. Again, Swiss challenge comes in, the manner in which the loan will be acquired, how you will have to put all your cases in your bank website, the ARCs go, do the diligence, and then you will put a value to that. Once a value is put, you will then go and do a Swiss challenge to the price that you have received if any other ARC is willing to up their quote. And then this is how you transfer. If one has to see, the same fundamental of a loan of above 60 days can be transferred to an ARC. Come to FY 22-21. This is circular of 21. By 21-22, if you saw that trend, more than 70-75% is already provided for. This is the time when then banks started selling on cash settlement. Cash settlement increased. All AIFs, FPIs, you find Apollos, Davidson Kempner of the world, Credit Suisse coming in, Morgan Stanley having their dedicated book. All distress fund players started coming to India to buy this distress book on cash settlement. They will use a vehicle of an ARC to fund, and then they will buy the entire. When SR went into IBC, most of the SR foreign debt was acquired by foreign funds, and those were debentures. So they funded, they knew that, okay, the recovery is going to be at 23% or at 25%. If I'm getting the paper at 15%, I'm going to get a 7% spread. The only call that they took was the time by which they will recover. So they would have recovered more if the process would have been faster, but the process took longer, so the returns would have reduced. But that was fundamental steps undertaken by these lenders, by these opportunistic debt providers who like to take this kind of call. And they do this with very strong conscious awareness that there is asset, it will get restructured. At the right restructuring, whatever price I am paying is going to be sustainable and I'll get my money back. And that's how they do this whole process. So quickly, I think all of you know what asset reconstruction company does. It has a sponsor. The sponsor, RBI initially had mandated a net worth. When first RSIL was introduced, the net worth was 10 crore, increased to 50 crore. Thereafter, it has kept on increasing. Today, the net worth minimum criteria is 300 crore. By 2026, all ARCs have to have the net worth in place. And on that net worth, they will go and acquire, but that is going to contribute only 15%. So 85% they can still do the SR. But if they have only 300 crore and if the asset acquisition is say 1500 crore, so how are they going to do it? So someone like through North Capital or Northern Arc Capital or Bank of America Merrill, they will come and fund the specific trust, get a debenture of that trust, and that money will be pooled in with the bank's 15% or 2.5%. There is another stipulation where up to 2.5% also, if more than 60% of the debt is provided, the ARC can put only 2.5%. 97.5% will come with the lender and they can do a cash buyout of the debt. So that structures are used. So ARCs are vehicles which are used by these lenders, maybe FPI route, AIF route, or the foreign banks. They acquire the debt and then they restructure sitting with the company management thereafter. They assume either the single largest lender or the only lender, that is the preferred position that they would want to have it. Any question around this? This is a spike that we were talking in when 595 became 1585 when AQR introduced. If you see, from 8,800 crores, suddenly the quantum of debt transferred by banks to ARC was 42,000 crore. FY22, this number is 1,28,000 crore. As we speak, this number is more than 1,45,000 crore. So if I have to look at the banking debt which is in stress, I need to see the total banking debt which is outstanding, 3.8 lakh crore, 1.5 lakh crore sitting in NBFCs and 1.5 lakh crore sitting in ARC. That is the total stress debt that we see. These are resolvable, but what happens, the debt which is sitting in ARC is a classic case of again giving the lender and the promoter a time of giving another breather of next 5 years, 7 years. The stipulation from RBI is that ARC has to restructure the debt in 5 years and which can be extended by another 3 years. So if you are able to resolve that, so that's how the ARCs work. When cash settlements were happening, okay, and there is a paper from RBI, I think again a circular which RBI kept open for the public review and public opinion, wherein RBI has basically sought inputs from the lender community, from the public at large, that can this NPA debt be sold directly to an FPI, to an AIF or to any private party. So there's a circular to that which is under paper, and today what is the scenario? Only AIFs can buy a distressed asset. Transfer of loan now permits that any person other than, I did not touch upon that, sorry for that, even a bank can acquire a bad debt which is 60 day. AIF can acquire a debt which is 60 day, but they will have to provide for. NBFC can acquire, but they will have to provide for. So those kind of provisioning RBI is already infused. But tomorrow, just imagine that if I am an AIF, I am having my whole vertical available to me. I am Deutsche Bank sitting in Singapore till now using vehicle of Edelweiss, using vehicle of ARC, Acre ARC, Kotak ARC to acquire the bad debt. And if tomorrow, if RBI permits for me to directly acquire bad debt into the Indian company, that also is possible. Having said that, the private credit market in India has grown exponentially, and the numbers are to speak. So from total 84,000 crore just in 2017, 1 year after IBC came in, we have today 11,34,000 committed capital available in private credit. There are two main factors for that. How much of this is invested? Almost 4 lakh crore against 35,000. Almost we are seeing more than 10 times invested in 5 years. Please note 3 major factors that happened during that period. One, IBC introduced. So all these foreign funds realized and have, could say, given a thumbs up to the Indian economy and the Indian regulatory system, that for us, coming into India was never a problem. Getting out was a challenge. Because your DRT case, your CDR cases, your recovery suits will go for 15 years. But now we have a platform that in 2 to 3 years we'll get our money back, whatever form and manner. But there is a platform available. That gave them confidence of coming and buying distressed assets. That gave them a confidence on coming and using this money for resolution, turnaround, creating value thereafter, etc. With that, the flow of capital has come in. Second, 3 or 4 major NBFCs took a downfall, starting with ILFS, Reliance Capital, Reliance Home Finance, Reliance Commercial, and we have DLF and FI. You can imagine the pool of capital which was deployed by them suddenly going through a process of restructuring, resolution, IBC, right? There was a lot of consolidation which happened in the NBFC world. What does a NBFC do? NBFC is regulated by RBI, puts in capital, borrows from banks, and infuses. Simple, like normal banking. Typical of a NBFC will leverage its capital to 3 times, to 4 times, to 5 times, depending upon its appetite. Every NBFC will have its own theme. Someone will do private, someone will do a corporate only, someone will do a special situation, etc., etc. But whenever this account goes bad, it is my book as an NBFC which has to take the provisioning, which has to take the hit, which has to then get into the RBI's norm of meeting the CR criteria, my equity criteria, my infused capital criteria, my net worth criteria, etc. And suddenly I am myself into stress. From 2017, here is a platform which is not under RBI, which is under SEBI. You have created a trust, which is a private credit fund through a trust route, similar to a mutual fund. So no criteria of RBI at that point of time applies to them. What are you going to do? You are going to go to family offices, to institutions and saying, okay, I'm setting up a trust. This trust is going to invest in this fund, this theme, etc. Whenever required, I will call for capital. You infuse this capital and we will deploy. Once they deploy, you will get units. So if tomorrow any account goes bad, it is not the trust which has to make the provisioning. The sponsor will have to make the provisioning only to the effect of their contribution. It is the unit holder's NAV which goes down. And now it is regulated by SEBI, not by RBI. Slowly, gradually, RBI has also realized they have started putting conditions around end dues, the debt which can be acquired by AIF, how it can be done. They are covering slowly, gradually that area also. But this money is coming and using. Where will it come? There were 7 ARCs in one company. And the company was able to service the ARCs for last 6 years. This fund comes in to take those ARCs out. Till the time an account is with an ARC, you will not get a credit rating, a normal banking rating. Despite me being standard with the ARC for 6 years, I cannot go and directly refinance from an Indian bank. So what I do, I go to a private credit fund. It is a costly money, but I take it for 1 year, 2 years, because that is the bridge for me to go back to getting refinanced by a bank. This capital is basically a costly money used for moving out of your pure distress to a turnaround scenario, getting into restructuring, resolving it, resolved it, and now refinancing, going back to banking. We generally term, and again there are two buckets under this. One we call as a private credit, which is a performing credit. Another is a special situation. Performing credit is akin to what NBFCs used to do. Private credit give you debt at 11%. If you are a AA rated, they will give you. But that's similar to what NBFCs used to do. So that is one bucket of private credit out of this 11 lakh crore. Another bucket is the one which does all these turnaround cases where there is a special situation required. I think I'll be passing by time. The last is Companies Act always provided for. None of, I think we have not seen large cases going and doing restructuring under the Companies Act. But Companies Act always had this provision of restructuring your capital structure with all your stakeholders under the Act, by which you call, earlier you used to call the High Court meeting, then take the approval. Now it is through the NCLT format. So same restructuring what you do under NCLT through a IBC format or through the 7th June circular, you can go under the umbrella of 340 of Companies Act, because this basically gets a validation from NCLT court, not being in IBC and still doing the restructuring. So as I said, first it started with 2000, then 1500, then anything below 1500. So anything below 1500, banks have been mindful that if your debt is anywhere between 500 and above, they do it under 7th June. So if there is only one bank, let me tell you in practice what happens. One bank, 100 crore, they will implement under the 7th June. The only requirement here is that you need to have a 75% value approval. Even 7 June, I think somewhere in the slide I missed out, that you require 75% by value, 60 by number for any resolution plan to approve. Yes. So these are the way by which I'll just again come to what we covered. Any query around this, you please let me. So the way this deals work is, yes, it can be 18%, but you have a flavor of structuring the debt the way you want. I can have a 18% IRR. I will pay you 9% coupon. Balance 9, I will pay you on redemption. Okay. If my market cap increases from so and so to so and so, I will convert your IRR into equity and give you debt. Those flavors are available while restructuring with an AIF. Correct? And these guys, they understand that how a turnaround is actually going to create a value. Plus, they will also be willing to put some equity money also, because you need actual cash. Restructuring ke time pe, the promoter, the company have put in whatever they had. So at that point of time, new capital for your implementation is going to be difficult. You will need more capital. Banker is not going to come at this stage. So you need new capital from this kind of comment. Borrower has the say, sir. If he wants to cooperate, he will cooperate. If he doesn't, then it is his say. But now the bankers have an upper hand. After IBC, bankers have an upper hand. If they don't cooperate, borrowers are really not bothered. I have seen case, I was in a bank, I was involved in the first committee which was formed for the DRT and the BIFR changes. And the biggest challenge was that we had BIFR cases for 15 years. And the promoter would be jolly well be moving around. Correct? We could do nothing. And if you come and talk to the promoter, he will just symbolically, sir, kal se ye lo chavi, kal se sambhal lena. Come 2016, when he throws the key, banker says, okay, sir, thank you. That has happened. That change has happened. And then the fear came in that agar SR can lose its company, if the Ruyas can lose their company, if Monets of the world can lose their company, then anyone can lose their company. And it is under through a process through the law. So no one can challenge. It is a litigious process, but it happens. But that fear of losing out came in, and that also helped in the resolution of the debt under this format. So borrowers have started becoming unreasonable, to say so. I think that's it from my side. Yeah. Okay. Wherever there is an offer given by one off, so I have an asset, I had to sell, I will do a bilateral discussion or I will do an auction process. Okay. So when I do an auction process, basically I have put a reserve price, and on the reserve price, I will get a bid. So it's a fair, transparent process. But imagine a scenario where I have not undertaken an auction process. I have a interested buyer coming in. Many a times promoter will come and say, sir, so and so group wants to acquire majority. Can you look into it? Bankers will assess, bankers will work, negotiate, try and build something better. Then they will have a plan. Okay? That plan, they will find out a NPV value for them out of that plan. And then they will come out with a public notice auction. Public notice signifying that we have received an intent of offer for so and so company. If anyone interested, 21 days, 30 days, the window is open for come and bidding for anything under the Swiss challenge auction. What does the Swiss challenge says? That if a bid was for 1000 crore for an asset, if a bidder comes and bids say 1050, then the first bidder will have a right to up his bid again. Now as a process, I can stipulate that I will permit this for 2 times. So he has put 1050, my bidder will come and say, okay, I will do it 1100. He will again have a right. 1100 ka he says, I will do 1200. Final say is resting with him this time. He will say 1250. And that's the final bid. Now what has happened? That's an actual evolvement of a price finding in this whole process. You are actually determining the right price by actually doing that bidding. So we were advising one bank, and there was a shipping vessel to be sold. We reached out to almost 600 players globally. We got 7 interested parties. We got 4 bids, selected 1. And thereafter, the bankers still wanted to run a Swiss challenge thereafter. We again ran a Swiss challenge in the international newspapers, the shipping industries, journals, etc. just to ensure that there is no other bidder who is willing to come and pay the price above this. And for the process, we can say that we followed a fair process. Sir. So there is a separate circular which RBI has mandated under transfer of loan, but as a part of option under the 7 June, it still comes as an option for resolution. If you see item number, resolution plan, item number 2, assignment of debt. It is part of my 7 June. Now governed also the manner in which it will be done, it will be through that circular. No. So if it is evergreening, to the format is very clear. Your residual debt you are transferring, the requirement is you are not going to overgreen. You are going to only, so hypothetically it's a 5-year loan. 1 year loan is already over. You are going to transfer the balance 4 years with the same repayment schedule. You are not going to tinker with the repayment schedule. That's it from my side. Any other questions? Happy to take. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Good morning, friends. honorable learned faculty on the dais, CA Vishal Joishar, Senior Regional Council member Rahul Parikh sir, Coordinator Aniket Kulkarni, and distinguished guests and dignitaries attending today's session. Friends, indeed it was a wonderful session, very intellectual and interactive. I, C.A. Sanjay Nikam, RCM, on behalf of Western India Regional Council of ICI, standing here to express our gratitude and respect to the learned speaker. He not only expressed his experience and knowledge with us, especially in the field of RBI initiatives which are taken by the finance ministry, and especially your focus on various circulars. You explained the nitty-gritties of the circulars, its impact, its implications, how to face those complications, especially circular dated 7 June of 2019. It was very much interactive and very much informative for all of us. I request all of you with big round of applause to express our gratitude towards the dedication and contribution made by the learned faculty to our knowledge. Thank you very much and happy learning to you. We are starting our next session. Be with us. Thank you very much.